Hey guys, gonna talk about mostly CLRO, maybe some RGLS, which I longed, but I'll focus on this. Uh, and shorted. Longed and shorted both these plays. So this kind of was a lot like TCBP yesterday, a very similar weak market open stock. Now I didn't catch the weak market open super low on this ticker, even though actually we did have the 1 minute 200 down here, but I was super bullish this ticker because in the morning, because A, on this push, starts trading 2 million shares per minute. I say a lot of times on these market open longs in low floats, you often need big volume. I say a lot of times they're bottomed out, so they're opening near their lows. Believe it or not, this getting walked down into market open is potentially bullish if the volume's there. We had some lower high paint. Pre-market high was farther up here. We got a potential lower high that could get targeted. We had $2, right? But out the gate, the vibe is actually pretty good. Out the gate, it starts trading 800K the moment out the gate, but I didn't catch the long, right? Just didn't catch the long. Right out market open. So we get a big push, and it pushes on 2 million volume, swipes $2, swipes $2, and pulls back. And I was heavily debating longing into this dip, but on the book was actually pretty nice. It was like your classic low float book, a bunch of bid stacks and stuff like that. I just was waiting too long. I kind of thought it would hang out down there for maybe 5-10 minutes and then go. They pretty much shoved it right away. And then on this pullback, um, good buddy Mikey Underdog hit this long on this pullback, but I didn't see as many bids to risk off of on this pullback back here. But this is your classic low flow pullback, right? Like I said, a lot of the long signals on low floats come after aggressive knife moves down to support, down to where bids are, right? These overly aggressive moves become potential long signals based on the structure, based on the book, based on the volume. Um, and it starts rotating without me. And they did a little trick where right before they squeezed this candle, they threw up a bunch of bids on the book, which is what I like because I've seen this trick before. And I was pretty convinced this lower high was a short trap. And, high day was up here, pre market high day was up here. I thought it was going to push. So I just longed into this 2.10 level kind of getting broken, right? And or 2.03, 2.05 level getting broken. I took some off immediately just because there's always potential. A, it's a long trap and it fades, or B, it's not a long trap, but it's going to come shake you out first, maybe do something like this and then go back up later. You never know what's going to happen. So, like, the more you chase your long like this, even if it's on a bullish structure with good volume, got a good book signal, there's always a risk of a bunch of shenanigans. A, there's a risk of your trade not working, and B, there's a risk of even if it does work, your average kind of sucks, and they could do a lot of, you know, uh, long shakeout, BS before they actually push the stock up. Now, the reason I went long here was because not only, again, because of this quick aggressive move, there's the 1 minute 20 right here, and there's clear bids on the 1 minute 20 holding the stock. I went long into that because, again, pre market high was like right here, and then this is a lower high right below it. So that's what causes the big squeeze, right? Took some off on the big squeeze. I thought they were going to squeeze 2.5 up higher. They ended up not squeezing 2.5 up higher. Took out my long. And then, since I'm not short up here, you don't want to chase. You don't want to chase. I don't like chasing lower highs. I want to see lower highs get attacked. I want to see backside get shaken out, which, past couple of weeks, we haven't really seen a whole lot of backside get shaken out. We haven't seen this type of, aggressive long trap backside pattern in a bit, right? But there's a couple things I really liked about this that made me think it was bearish, right? The first one is we got a bunch of painted higher lows. That's a bearish factor. The second one is we had this I mentioned this before, this multi-hour long low volume soak. A lot of times, especially if a stock is already squeezed, a lot of times when a stock is soaking on very, very, very low volume, they only have enough liquidity to kind of push past some type of level. So a lot of times it's painted, a lot of times it's something like this where it's like lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Um, but I was I told my Discord it's like I'm at least looking for 2.2 because 2.2 is here. It traded a bunch of volume at market open. It's definitely rigged. CLRO has been rigged in the past. And then the other bearish factor was how aggressive. Right? Like I said, a lot of times the more aggressive the move is, the weaker the stock. And I also like to say that the closer it gets to high day, apparently my arrow's stuck here. What happened on the book was this entire push had no bid following it up, so we got a nice book signal. It was filling a bunch of ask on the book, right? Stack higher. And then when it started to pull back, we started seeing this isn't MS Paint, by the way. We started seeing some new ask start to show up here, pushing the stock back down, right? And I'm hoping that, especially as we get into the after hours. Now, after hours can go two ways, After hours, this 2.5 level is now painted. Maybe this goes on a multi-day run and it's crazy strong. The other side of it is we got these, painted higher lows. It cracks them, fades in the after hours, right? So that's kind of like the two things that can happen. I'm just gonna keep my risk pretty tight. I de-risked a little bit near $2, just so I wouldn't have to worry too much, right? I'm literally making this video, and the stock market is still open, by the way. So it's at 207 right now, it's just kind of chilling. But yeah, that was this play. So we'll go over on the let's look at the chart real fast. I like to start with the chart. So here's your after hours high right there. We got some lower highs. We got lower highs. We got this lower high. So as you see, we got like a bunch of lower highs below high day, right? And they're walking it down into the open, right? So these walk downs can be, and here's the 1 minute 200 can be really strong, right? Empty space, walk down into the open. This closed at 0.9. This was opening at 1.6, which is a decent gap actually. But we're in a market where stocks up 50-60% are pushing right at market open. So traded amazing. This is amazing rig to volume. I was just so focused on RGLS. I'll show you the chart, but I longed off the 1 minute 20. I sold a little bit into these pushes, and then I took off the rest on when my average was pretty much at 270. I got out on this crack, right? Because again, if you're longing near the top, if you're longing up here, I'm going to take profits on these liquidity targets or potential long trap targets, and then I'm getting out on these big cracks. But yeah, this whole ticker was insane. I shorted this move towards 3. This actually went to only 3.02, 3.03, but somebody had a single order at 314. I shorted in the high 290s on this candle. And then I actually held through. I took some profit, and I actually held through this. But anyways, back to CLRO. So some bullish factors, right? One bullish factor is the market conditions. We've seen multiple market open squeezes happen. I just did a video on TCBP yesterday, so that type of pattern's working until it's not working. Lower high paint, good market open volume, stock opening near its lows, right? All bullish. These are all the walk down. You can see how it's walked down here. Super bullish. Starts trading a bunch of volume with a massive knife. Again, these massive knives, especially when a stock's trading 2.5 million shares a minute, these massive knives have huge potential to be strong. And I was looking at this. I was looking at RGLS, and there were bids down here. We'll see the bids that were down here. I didn't long them, and then here's another aggressive move. A lot of these, this is how low floats move, man. Even if they're going to push, Well, a lot of times what they do, even if the volume's strong, the structure's strong, the market's strong, even if all those things are true, how a lot of low floats move is they do these like aggressive pullbacks. They do a push. They do look how aggressive this is. Green candle, green candle, green candle. Big soak. Like this went from 1.75 to 1.96 pretty much straight up. And what they do is sometimes do they squeeze straight up? Yeah, sure, it depends. But a lot of times what they do is they do a big knife move, give a nice 20-cent knife and then squeeze it, right? So, which actually it's nice to know that because a lot of times you know not to chase. This was an exception. Longing here makes sense because of the lower high paint, right? We got lower highs, lower highs. You got this lower high. You had this lower high paint on massive volume, and I'm sorry, here on this candle. We got a lot of lower highs this could squeeze through, and it already did two big knife moves before rotating back up. So I thought chasing was justified. I got stopped out down here, and then we end up getting the real long. But again, look at this. Like, I thought this would knife to the 1 minute 20 and then rotate, but it knifed, went a little bit far down to where my risk was, and then rotated. But yeah, we'll look at the book on this. This was an interesting book. So, what do you call it? My screen's a little messed up here, but yeah, here's that 2 million volume push at market open. Here's the knife into the bids. This was probably where the real long was. I thought this would like bounce another couple minutes and I'd be able to get in a long over here. Didn't happen. Here's that pullback to 1.8. This is where Mikey went long. By the way, he went long because he considers this ask in this range to be now. This was acting as resistance and now it's acting as support, right? This is essentially a pivot for this to soak off of before rotating, and that's why he went long there. Very smart. And here's my chase long is when these bids came in, right? So here's this painted 2.05 level. They were holding it, holding it, holding it. And then they do the classic thing where they throw a few bids before initiating. I saw the bids come in. I tried to long it. I took some out up here just in case. And then here's the pullback that I got stopped out on, right? But this is what I went long on, right? I got stopped out. They soaked a bunch of shares, empty book to the upside, super bullish. And this is what I mean. Like, I see it rotate. I don't want to chase this rotation because I don't see a lot of bids under it, right? So you never want to chase rotations that are too far away from where the actual bids are, right? What's much better in low floats, let them pull it back and let them stack new bids. We could see the new bid stacks coming in here. This now has heavy lower high paint from pre-market highs, and it's trading a bunch of volume, and it's in a market where things are pushing. So I went long again, and the trade worked. And then this is where, once this bid got taken out and it started knifing, I got out the rest of my shares. And then let's just go to the pre-market, the backside clear out over here. So we had all those lower highs. I do like waiting for stocks to push a little closer to high day, right? If high day is near 2.5, in most cases, unless I see a really nice book signal, I do like to wait for a bigger push. And I do miss a lot of trades waiting for that, but in this case, it does help me out. But yeah, they did the classic trick here where they, I thought I was going to miss the short here, but once this happened and then pulled back a second time, I went short in this, I went short a little bit on the pullback and I went short in the consolidation. And if you zoom, it's kind of hard to tell, but they were throwing up ask. I get filled up here, and there's no bid support, right? And I just made the bet. The bet was very simple. The bet was that this aggressive move was not going to break high a day. There's no bid follow-up, had a painted backside level, and I went short, and now it's in the after hours. We see it just kind of hung around, and we'll see what it does. Maybe they go for 2.5, and it's a crazy multi-day runner. Maybe they pull it and it fades to sub, sub 1.9, and by like 5 p.m. or something. So we'll see what happens. But I love the aggressiveness. I love the ass getting filled. I like how close it got to high day. It was really nice. And then the other trade, oh, not the other trade. Okay, this video actually went on a lot longer than I thought, but I'll just show you my RGLS trade. RGLS, here's my trade off the 1 minute 20. Classic. What they were doing up here was really interesting. Oh, by the way, pre-market had lower high, lower high, lower high. And I pointed this out. I actually thought RGLS was quite strong because I had pretty decent news. The news was it got like $100 million private placement by like legitimate, legitimate funds. And they had some good data. It was phase one data, which is usually not that meaningful, but it was the data with the private placement that made me think, oh, maybe this is actually like pretty good biotech news. And then it had a bunch of volume in the market open, had painted lower highs, and I was actually looking for the long here, but I don't like the long into the 930 candle because a lot of times what they do is they push it, they knife it maybe below these support levels, and then push it for real. I was kind of waiting for something like that. But they just shot it straight up through all the painted lower highs. I'm like, man, I missed the trade. And then up here was really interesting. They kept refreshing $3. They were purposely, it was hitting $3, and they were just refreshing the ask, refreshing the ask, refreshing the ask. And a lot of times that could be a trap because what they're doing is they're painting $3 as this like very heavy resistance level. They do the quick dump to the 1 minute 20 pattern here. They throw up a bid, which I saw, and then they just push it straight back. I was hoping for more continuation, but again, I'm taking profits into some of these pushes because my average is just so high. If you're longing near the top, I call it longing near the top, and sometimes you long near the top a big 50%, and sometimes, but most of the time that doesn't happen. So it's like you got to take profits into in the liquidity target. It's like three. I was doing a 2.9 in case it was a long trap. I took some off at 3 because that was the main liquidity target. Got out on the crack. That was essentially where my average was. This move was insane. By the way, this move happens, but predicting this move is incredibly difficult. But the idea of why this move is able to happen is because of how aggressive this walk down was. Like how aggressive this selling is here. So aggressive, and it leads to and Mikey. Sometimes I go into Mikey Underdog's room. I call this the happy face pattern but it teaches the happy face pattern teaches you an important concept of low floats, that it's the controlled selling and the constant walk down where shorts are in the money and longs are getting shaken out. It creates this type of liquidity balance in the stock that allows these like happy face, U patterns to happen to begin with, right? So, it was funny. I was watching this like kind of aggressive walk up because I thought maybe it would get, I had an alert up here. I had an alert like right here. So it's like, it was getting walked up. I put an alert up here. I go do something else. I hear my alert go off. I'm like, oh, cool. Maybe there's like a short. Maybe there's something to short. And it's up halted. I just come back and it's up halted. I was like, wow, what a stock. An important thing to know about these aggressive liquidity moves, especially the ones that go past high, especially the ones that come very, and this is not super common, but when you get these, deep support reclaims that squeeze high a day, especially the more aggressive it is, the less likely there is to be continuation up here, right? And just my idea is that there's no real support levels. It's more of just a massive liquidity squeeze before pulling the stock. That being said, the volatility up here is insane. You could see it go from 3.5 to 2.9 to 3.8 to 2.5. And it can be hard to gauge what I know. The more aggressive the liquidity swipe is, once the liquidity target has kind of been targeted, oftentimes the weaker the stock is. But it's still hard to get an entry when the volume and the volatility is like that insane. But Yeah, I did like on this backside. Again, this is a very similar short to CLRO. We kind of had this paint, especially how painted this was. This was a super painted flat top on the backside. Again, I liked how aggressive the move was here. Super, we got the painted higher lows, right? Painted higher lows. That's bearish. Got this super painted flat top level that could get targeted later, right? Um, and and they filled the ask at $3. They pulled it back under $3, and they restacked the ask on the book. You can see it clear as day. And then I held throughout. I took a little bit off because again, my average is at like 2.9s and high days all the way up here. Um, we did have a bunch of painted higher lows here. They did a little trick where they actually stacked a bunch of ask. There was like 4 layers of ask stacked here. And what they did, I'll just show you what they did. They did the classic trick on RGLS. Can I find it? There we go. They did the classic trick. Oh, you can't see this. There we go. So this is right before it pulled. You can see them stack one, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5 layers of ask. They fill, I don't know, 3 of the layers here. They fill the rest of the layers here. And what do? They fill all these asks and they pull it. It's a classic trick. This is a classic backside trick. That's what they did on AIMD and all those stocks. And then they did this crazy thing, and then my daughter woke up from her nap, so it's actually gone, and I put my risk up at $3. And I took some off on the knife just because I told my Discord, I was like, just in case they do some crazy manipulation, I'll take a little bit off on the support crack. And then they did this crazy move that I wasn't even here for, and now it's fading into the after hours, and I'm actually still holding on to it, so I'm interested to see if it fades. Sometimes a lot of times in low float land, even though this is a thicker float, so this doesn't, but it had the volatility of a low float, so I am approaching it that way a little, at least factoring that in a little bit. A lot of times when these aggressive liquidity moves happen at the end of day and they don't go anywhere, you could get big fades in the after hours. In end of day and after hours, you could get a lot of nice fades. So that's the idea of some, like, not even swing shorting this. I'll probably just come back in the unless something crazy happens, I'll come back in an hour or two and try to cover some. Yeah. And that's by the way, CLRO right now is fading a little bit in the after hours. See a little. Anything could happen on this play. I mean, the book is crazy thin in the after hour books are so thin that they can this could be back up 10-20% in half an hour. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, you get one little bid come in and they just shove that thing back up. You never know what's gonna happen. So, anyways, that's today's video. Crazy action. Nice painted little backside move here on CLRO. You can see it. And yeah, that'll be it for today. Information down below about the Discord. You have a good one. See ya.